Nice. Okay. All right, go live. Ready? Three, two, one.
All right then. So I'm assuming we're live, in which case I just want to say hello everyone and welcome to the fifth episode of the Royals and Rogues production review, which by the way, we are going to change that name. I'm going in the back and changing all those vlogs things. Um, but today we are going to be we were supposed to be reviewing a new scene, which we were calling the monument scene.
Right.
But due to circumstances, both health related and technical related, that's we're gonna have to pass on that this week, and instead we're gonna kind of do an overview of the entire project itself, and go into kind of where we started, why we, started it, maybe both how you decided to begin with it, how I came on board and wanted to do it, and then where it is currently at is kind of what we've been going through with each of these videos, but we could even talk about kind of the future state, what we're looking forward to or trying to get done, and kind of the schedule that we're trying to keep up with. So I guess the first question then is going to be, Alec, why even do this?
Right.
Why are you doing a short film?
So
Or and I guess do you consider it a short film or a trailer?
I consider it a short at this point. So
Okay.
yeah, what I realized when I was looking at our production vlogs is we never had a moment where we talked about what we were doing, why we were doing it, like what's the goal or any of this stuff. It was just like, hey, we're doing this thing and it's really cool, and I want to bring you guys, along for the ride. Um, and so this is hopefully a way to clear that up. I don't exactly expect anyone to watch live, but hopefully it will sit there on the site and people can see it when they come across it. But essentially, there's like three major goals with doing this. So I've ran a production studio for a while. I've been running a creative agency, and you work with clients, and there comes a point where you're like, okay, what do I want to do next? Do I want to keep growing this thing and get more and more clients, make a bigger company, and keep doing this? You kind of have like a little midlife crisis, I guess. And then what I realized is, well, I went to film school to make films. Like I wanted to make movies, and for somehow I ended up not making movies and ended up making ads for various companies. And I sat with that for a little while, and I said, like, let's make what I've set out to make, a little digital short film. And I think it's going to have hopefully the added benefit of maybe getting us in the short term some more work, right? It's going to prove our capabilities. There are some projects I really wanted to pitch on and to work on, but we didn't really have the capabilities deck yet, right? That of doing that style of work. So it's like, oh, I like working with video game companies. I'd like to make a trailer for a video game. And it's like, well, we've never made a trailer for a video game. We've only made, 3D technical ads for, tech corporations. We made some explainer videos. And it was one of those things where I was like, well, how would I get that work? And it's like, well, you got to show you can do it. And I also wanted to build the pipeline for that. Like, so if we did get one of these projects, I did want to already have the workflow ready to go. So I wanted to be like, okay, so this is how we would do it. We've already done it, and now we know what it takes. We know how long it takes. We know how much it costs, approximately, and we can apply that to future potential work projects. The other thing is I'm in the middle of kind of transitioning the company as a whole, and into more of a direct-to-consumer, direct-to-market agency, creative agency, right? I want to make stuff for you guys, for viewers, for fans, for other 3D artists that are passionate about this stuff. With the ultimate goal of all this stuff, like the big 5-year plan, is to kind of create a digital short film underground, as I would call it. So the goal with this is, let's create a short film ourselves, figure out how to do it, figure out how to, make it profitable or whatever. The first one probably won't be, because it's your first go at something and you have no, you have no name recognition, you have no clout, you have no audience.
That's the positive attitude I want to hear.
Yeah. But once it's out there and you kind of start building that, I want to be able to build a template that other people can follow. And what I've been doing a lot of research of, and how I would like people to think about this, is like back in the and to this day, to be honest, is the alternative comic book scene. So there's been a more recent alternative comic book movement, which is really cool. But previously, there's been this this underground comics where it's like, yeah, there's the big two, and they make very like run-of-the-mill, family-friendly, stuff. But then if you wanted to find something interesting or weird or edgy or trippy, or you just didn't want to publish through Marvel and DC, what started happening is there were these independent comics, right, that started coming out and becoming really famous. The most famous of all is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? It's like two guys in their basement come up with this Daredevil spoof is what it was. So the same chemical that gets Daredevil gets the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is why they have Splinter, right? Because Stick is who trains Daredevil, so they have Splinter, and then so instead of the hand is the evil ninja group in Daredevil, they're the foot, right? And so so there's this whole little world there that they built, and it was just like small black and white comics is what it started out. That was really weird, kind of dark, but also of turtles, right? Is ironic. And so that is what I'm trying to recreate, that mentality of artists going like, oh, I guess I don't need a giant publisher. I guess I don't need a studio behind me. I don't need all this stuff. And another good way to look at it is like the independent video game space, right? Like that's done really, really well. But what they have is an audience that's A, willing to pay money, and then B, is some distribution type platforms and some ways of like getting stuff in front of people. So what I'm trying to figure out at Royals and Rogues is there a way that I can kind of build this for the digital short film movement? I see this crest happening of the technology is so accessible and cheap, like Unreal Engine's free for, to build stuff on, to learn. Blender's free, just period, and they've both gotten so good. I use Cinema 4D. It's not free, but it's cheap enough, and it's very fast and efficient. So, you start realizing, okay, the tools are there. The demand seems to be there. People aren't super thrilled with a lot of what Hollywood's producing, and they seem to really enjoy a lot of these kind of short filmmaking stuff. The attention span, you don't have to have a 2-hour film anymore. You can just kind of release something small, and people are happy to watch that. So where is the people filling that demand, right? There's the market demand. There's the tools are there, right? There's no hold up there. You can publish stuff direct to consumer everywhere you want. But it almost seems to me, and I'm I could be wrong about this, but it almost seems to me like the Canon era and the DVD era of independent filmmaking was sort of better than right now, right? Like it seems like there was more.
You mean like independent stuff, people are creating? Yeah,
the idea of being able to at least pay for the production, right? Being able to use the profits from whatever you did to pay for whatever you just created. It seems like there should be this boom. So even if it's the same, right? Even if, there's still people making short films, there's still people making stuff, and there's somewhat more. To me, there should be this like huge boom of, all the time. And one problem is, I think people are making like little one-off things, but they're not making narratives. So I think that's the biggest problem I see out there is like a lot of the sort of short films type stuff is not really narrative and world building driven. It's more like here's a cool scene of a guy standing in front of a whale, or here's a guy in a spacesuit, that's in a weird location in the jungle. They're more of like little tidbits, right? Like there's a lot of Beeple style renders, right? Which is like, these kind of cool, weird, abstract things. But no one's been able to stitch those together into like a sort of a story. So that's like the long-term audacious goal. Right? And the goal with that is like, let's build a sort of publishing platform slash, community slash, classroom that we can take people that want to make short films, give them all the tools they need, give them the back end they need. Here's how to structure, your pipeline, and here's how we've done it. So we've proven it works or whatever. And you can follow this model, and we'll kind of walk you through that. So that's like the long-term goal. So that's why we're even making this thing. And then the other thing to talk about is like, well, why this story in particular?
That's like 4 different whys.
Yeah.
You just put there. Which was...
There's a lot. If I were to streamline it down, it's all under the umbrella of creating a digital filmmaking movement, right? And we're going to try different ways of doing that, right? So like, like I said, it might be a classroom, might be white, might be whatever, but that's all under that one umbrella. And then short term is proving we can. Okay. Those are really the only two goals: is proving we can do it, and then in the service of that greater goal, which is to launch more short filmmaking in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. It seems interesting.
Interesting. I feel
Yeah,
like
I mean,
you've been aware of this. This isn't new to you.
well, I would say that. Well, I think that when you say, "Oh, curated digital short film movement," it's like, all
Yeah.
right, well, it's kind of. I mean, I don't want to say ambitious. It's kind of arrogant.
No, I
Like,
don't think
oh,
so.
we're going to be the one. We're going to be the one that.
Yeah, okay. So let me clarify on that. The goal isn't to like be the one. It's a wave. The wave is happening, right? And I'm just trying to ride that wave. I'm trying to enable as many people as possible to hop aboard, right? So my goal isn't to launch. I'm not starting the wave. The wave was started by technology being cheap, and by audiences being there, right? And by all the perfect storm that's happened to allow, just like with self-publishing of comic books, right? Like TNMT didn't
But
create the storm. The storm's there, and I'm hoping
yes,
to
yes and no. But
open
there's
up
a
the
bunch of people who were
sails.
yes and no. But there's a bunch of people who were doing it.
Right.
You're saying that there's no one doing it right now, and you don't understand why.
And let me change that. It's not that there's no one doing it. It's that it feels like it should be farther than it is, if that makes sense. Right.
Okay.
Like there's like Huxley's out there. There's a few other, places that have been successful. I mean, you follow a couple that are more like audio plays and other stuff, right? Like the technology's there. This stuff is happening. People are doing it in little like blips and blobs, but there hasn't been this like, in the comic book space, it's like heavy metal, it's Image Comics, it's like this new sort of wave of producers. So I'm seeing it build. I'm seeing it. So I'm trying to recognize a trend, and what I want to do is help as many people on board, right? Before the space gets really populated, people realize the value, and then corporations form. So
why do you think that is?
That pre-state.
Yeah, why do you think that is? That it's not farther along.
That it's not farther along.
Yeah.
I think there's like a million factors for that.
And what do you think it would a healthy ecosystem would look like?
Okay, that's really good. So I think a healthy ecosystem would be a great example is YouTubing and streaming. So you look and you go, oh, YouTube is here, right? There's all these. You can put your content out there. There's people seem to really want to watch the content. This should be taking off, right? You should be like, that should be something that's happening. That should be a career path that people can take. And I don't think anyone's really forged a clear enough picture as to like what the model looks like. And so you have PewDiePie, you have a few other people that go, oh, hey, here's how you actually make a job at this. You get sponsorships, right?
At YouTube, you mean?
Yeah, with YouTube.
Okay.
So they are saying like, here, you get sponsorships, you upload weekly, you have a schedule you upload to, you choose a niche that's your specific content, so on and so forth. And then it becomes like a repeatable thing, right? Which is what I'm trying to say with the short film pipeline, and why I'm trying to build this pipeline is because that way you can give that to other people. And so right now there's a bunch of people doing it, but it's very different, right? So you have like Huxley, and he's using like crypto to pay for tokens that then get you the comic that then leads to his short film, right? Like, and then you have people like that are just doing a YouTuber model, where it's like I release a monthly short film and whatever.
Ad revenue.
Right, and it's powered by ad revenue. That doesn't exactly work. The problem with a short film is you need like 6 months where you're not releasing content that's what people want to watch, right? The short film, and then you drop it, and then you can't have that one video's revenue try to pay for 6 months of stuff on YouTube. It doesn't work that way. YouTube's, especially when you look at the effort. So I just had an interview with a guy that has done some short films with Moist Critical, right? Penguino, if you're familiar with that channel. And he was saying the problem with it to Charlie is the name of the guy. To Charlie is like, well, I could spend $50,000 and work for 6 months on this short film, which I really loved doing. It was really awesome. Or I could just make like a reaction video and get just as much monetization and return on investment for a 30-minute video where I just go, well, what's
through
the
YouTube, you mean?
Yeah, yes. What's the drama today? So there needs to be a different model for short films. Now I've seen it work. So like one model that can work is A Star Days is a good model, because he at the peak was making $14,000 a month, which that's enough to make a short film on, right? You can $14,000 a month is enough to live, and then also invest into making stuff, right? And so that can work, but you have to have that like cult following, and it has to be a property that's sort of big enough to get you that sort of cult following, right? So, and that's where the other thing that comes in long term for me, which is like long term, is to develop like an open source IP, right? So that IPs are the easiest way to latch onto an audience. So you find an IP like Star Wars, you release a Star Wars short film, and that does really well. The problem with that is you're not allowed to monetize those. So if you monetize them, Star Wars comes over and goes, hey, you can't be making money off of our IP. They kind of allow you to make fan films. I've talked to a few of the people about this who've made them on the back end. I was like, hey, what's going on? How did that look like? And they've all said the same thing. It's like, you're not allowed to use their music, because music is like people are insane about music copyright. So you can't use any official Star Wars music. And then you also can't put ads on it. You can't make money on it. Otherwise they go like, that's our IP and we're not defending it by you making money and we have to sue you. So
to bring this back, so what would be a healthy ecosystem? Where do you think a healthy ecosystem would look like?
Right.
For this.
So for me, the healthy ecosystem would be one where people have not a guarantee. There's nothing in life is guaranteed, but they have a repeatable, followable path to successfully being able to create a career of releasing short films, right? So the idea is like creating the template, right? If someone had go, oh, I'm gonna, like, if you turn to your mom today and you say, I'm gonna become a YouTuber, right? It's not the same as saying it when you were 10 years ago. Right. If you said it 10 years ago, people are like, how do they even make money? And now you go, look, all I have to do is I have to choose a specific topic. I have to choose a specific, industry. I have to make regular content about that industry or about that topic. And it has to be at a certain level of quality that should rise over time. Right. And
but that's still all in the realm of like reaction or critique that is kind of within the YouTube sphere.
Right.
When we're talking about that.
Right.
So I guess where I want to know is, okay, so there's a couple things you keep saying that I find I want to pull out and kind of tease out and make sure I understand better. So you keep saying there needs to be a healthier ecosystem. Well, the ecosystem that we have right now, if the way that it is right now, you're saying, well, it's not as far along as it should be. So what's missing from it? And then the second I guess we'll ask that, and then I'll go to the second one. So if you say that you would expect there to be a healthy ecosystem at this point, and there isn't one, what's actually missing? Saying, well, a way to keep putting out content. Well, there is a way, but it's reaction and it's critique.
Right.
What is the missing component?
I think the missing component is figuring out how to monetize your short film itself in a way that's a successful return on investment. That makes sense, right? So like, yes,
that justifies the cost.
That not just justifies, but covers the cost, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So, justifies the cost that you're putting into it, that you can then go and create more. Okay.
Yes, and so what I'm doing and what Blau Films is doing, we're gonna have another conversation about this. We need to schedule it, but what he's doing, and he's doing it much better than I'm doing it, because I'm just trying to figure out, like, can we even build a short film? He's like way more professional about it. He has like investors and like a team of people, and he's already released some stuff, but like what he's doing is turning it inside out. So it's like, let's sell the assets we're making as we build this short film, and let's sell the learning. Let's do some education around it, and let's create some texture maps, or like the most realistic digital computer screens that you can use in your projects and stuff like that. So, that's what he's doing. I'm sure they'll eventually sell like some motion capture data and some other stuff. And so what that allows you to do is spread the cost out, as opposed to, I release it and it has to make all of its money when I release it. It's while I'm building it, every time I finish an asset, I put that up for sale, and that makes money. And then this next part makes money, and that makes money, and that makes money. And then you're building this like slow growth sort of thing as people follow along until release date, which then when you release, then you should see a spike, not just in however you sell it, but also in maybe ad revenue or however you monetize the video itself. But you're also seeing a spike in all the back end work you've done, and then that can continue to make money for a while until that also like dies off. So you're, instead of putting it all like Hollywood does, which is like sell this and then sell, it used to be DVDs, now it's streaming. It's like we're making profit the whole time, but smaller profit, and then there might be a spike. So that's one model that I think is a really good model that I would like to see if that works. A model I'm interested in testing is more of like a heavy metal model, which is like, what if we collect Love, Death, and Robots is a better example for people. There's obviously interest in short filmmaking, but it seems to be more interesting to people as an anthology, you know what I mean, or as a series. So if you can collect, 5 or 6 or 8 short films all around sort of one idea or subject, people will pay actual money for that, right? And it doesn't seem like people want to pay actual money just for one like short film view.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, yeah, you keep saying short film, and it's interesting.
I should say independent film.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because you say I was gonna say, you say digital short film, which is like, okay, what's the difference? But then it's, yeah, you keep focusing on short film. So why short film? Because typically in the past, really what the push was is you made short films for festivals,
right?
But then people then to see and say, oh, this person has talent, or I like this idea, I'd like to see it expanded, and then it would go into a feature,
right?
Eventually, and that's where you would try to be making money back. So why short films, and why, or why independent like short films? Why is it you see that the focus?
For like a lot of reasons. So reason number one is, it's been this forever problem, but it's also been forever an untapped market, right? So there's this, nobody goes, well, if you're not writing a 5,000 page novel, then it's just not worth publishing, right? But for some reason around films, if it's not a over 90-minute movie, then it's like, well, that's not worth putting in theaters. And it's very strange to me, or on a streaming service, right? It's like, well, why? Why is that the case when every other medium, time isn't relevant? So if you have a play, no one goes, well, this play's only this long and not this long. It's just like however long the play needs to be is how long it needs to be to tell the story, right? And the same thing with, when you have a book or a comic book, no one's like, oh, this isn't a graphic novel, it's not worth releasing, right? Like that's, nobody says that. And nobody says if it's a book, oh, this is only a novella or this is only a short story, it's not worth publishing. Like there's all sorts of short stories and short books and short novels that get published, and they make money and they sell, right? Like the idea that they're not selling because they're not like the idea of I'm buying the length of a book is what I'm buying is not the case. You're buying the ideas in the book, the story. And so it's really weird to me that short films, and I say short, what I really mean is like anything that's not a feature film, right? We'll just call it that. That's just, but that is by the way, that is the term short film. Like if you go to a film festival and you go to, it's like, generally it's just like anything under, an hour is a short film, right?
Yeah.
So it's really strange to me that, that there's that hole in the market and that we've accepted the status quo. And I don't think that needs to be the status quo. Now, there's good reasons, it seems, because people have had a hell of a time getting short films to actually work. Like Sci-Fi Channel tried doing like a short film thing and it sort of worked and sort of didn't work. You have like anything that's too loose and not connected well enough as a series, right? Because like, there's no real difference between like Black Mirror and just creating regular short films.
Yeah.
They're very loosely tied together, but you kind of need that tie. So same thing with like Alter and Dust, the YouTube channels that regularly show short films and they regularly get millions of views. They still keep it under one umbrella, right? It's like just horror or just sci-fi. So it seems like you need some sort of a packaging thing, which is like Love, Death, and Robots is like a very, very loose packaging, but the packaging is generally, it's going to be about one of these 3 things, right? Like, or maybe all of them. And so that's reason number 1 why I'm interested in the short films in particular, meaning anything that's not a feature film / TV show. The next thing
why not feature or TV show?
Those markets already exist. They already have like clear ways of getting those made and
yeah,
how
but
they would go
what
about.
I mean is, why not do that though in the future? Like
Um,
if you could monetize, find a way to I guess monetize is the right word. If you could find a way to do the distribution to make money doing it, why not?
I mean, I'd be down. I'd be down to doing that. It's just not as fun to me to make uh, to do it that way. And the other reason is because I love short films, right? Like I really
Okay.
love these cool little ideas that let you play, and you're not committed for 8 years. So that's the other reason to focus on short films is, as opposed to like let's say features. And when I'm talking to people about, hey, make your digital short film, and not make I'm not talking about feature films. It's because it's not doable. Like a feature film costs so much to make, and it takes so much effort. And if you're gonna do it independently, and you're gonna do something like Realm of the Mad God, right? That stop motion feature film length independent film by one guy. It took him his whole life. It took him like 40 years. You know what I mean? So I don't think that's the way to go for most people. I don't think anyone wants to spend like 40, not anyone, but the concept of spending 40 years working on one thing and having no idea if it's going to do remotely well, and it happening to get enough buzz, and then that happens to get picked up by Netflix. It's like, wow, that's a very, very big bet that most people aren't comfortable with, right? What you need to do, here's a good example. I think what you need to do in order to make something like more of a commercial success, like a normalizing it as a profession, is you need to lower the risk threshold to a point where it's acceptable to maybe not the average person, but someone just beyond the average person, right? So like becoming a YouTuber, back in the day, the risk was so high that like the idea of even trying it was ridiculous, which is why it wasn't tried by everyone. You need to lower that risk to a point where, okay, I could see myself doing that. Yeah, I could see the steps. It's going to be hard work. It's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed, but I could, I could see how I could get to the top of that mountain, as opposed to saying, here's a mountain. There's no way up. There's no paths. Try it. It's like that's not gonna be a popular hike. That's a good example. So what you're trying to do is create the pathway so that someone can get up the mountain, right? And walk it. And you're like, okay, here's the steps. Here's the trailhead. Here's where you go. Here's where that is. And so that's happened with a few other careers, and in the creative area, right? We used to be like any artist. The idea of being an artist at all was just like, that's crazy. And now it's like, if you're a graphics artist or a designer, when someone goes, I'm going to become a graphic designer, no one goes like, well, good luck with that. You're never making money. It's like, no, there's many job listings for graphic designer just out there.
True. You could argue though that's not, if you're looking to make money, that's not the route that you go. You can go into any other industry to do, or go into other industries or other positions in an industry to make money doing that. And there's always, I would argue it's not a bad thing if it's a risky endeavor. That's where the reward comes into play. So
Right.
if there's not a lot of people doing it, then the way that people start following is when they start going, oh wow, okay, that actually did very successful, and you just kind of figure it out, and you have the
That's the
riskiest people
balance
take it.
that I'm talking about, right? Like you want to lower, like films are still really risky, but there's a clear pipeline, and they're really valuable still. They still make a lot of money, right? Like, so, but there's a pipeline, and that's it's all relative. I know plenty of people that go, actually, films don't make really hardly any money. I'm far better buying an oil rig and investing in that. Like, so, but where I'm trying to do is find the right balance between, like again, comic books. Like back in the day, it's like, well, how do I even get things published? I had to learn how to draw, and then I had to learn how to and then it's like, oh, in the late 80s, it's like, we have not Kinko's, maybe it was around in the 80s, but we can Xerox stuff, we can infinitely reproduce it, and now there's a clear path. Like just like becoming an author, it's still very, very hard. It's still not easy, but there's a very clear path to self-publishing or publishing, right? It's like I can either get my book picked up by Random House, or I can put it on Amazon and then they print on demand as people order it, right? And now it's my job to build up the hype around the book. And comic books, I think, are always the great example because there's something creative. There's something that's like a one-off, typically like small thing that's where they make their money on selling the actual thing. And they seem to do okay. So you look at, I look at this and I go, okay, I want to see that model happen with I don't think anyone, as far as I'm aware, has created like a real, kind of just any sort of successful model for how to monetize short films. They're always in service of something else. Like you said, they're in service of, well, you do the short film to become a film producer. You make the short film to, get an award or to get
You mean
interest
you
in
haven't seen
something else.
anyone? You mean you haven't seen anyone take the short film and make that actually profitable on its own? You-
Yeah, that
as
path
opposed to
isn't clear to me. I think people have done it.
Okay.
I think people have done it. Like again,
Yeah.
Astartes is an example. There's other people that have gotten a Patreon or whatever, but I don't know if that's really the right model for that people can regularly follow. Not to guaranteed success, right? Not to guaranteed, just like becoming a graphic designer wasn't guarantee you a paycheck, but it's a pretty, that's the extreme end where it'd be almost too much. I'd be worried if everyone was making a short film and making it a career choice. But I would like to see it clear enough where more people are doing it. Again, like the early comic book space where it's like, yeah, I can make a comic book and I can get it published and I understand what that takes and I understand where that needs to go. When you talk about digital short films, I think people don't even have that. Like they're like, how is that going to make any money? It's generally like the first response you get. Like it's not even like, it's like, oh, are you trying to make a feature? Right? That's like the other question you get. You never get. And so I would like to change that conversation when I say, I'm going to make a comic book. People go, oh, that's cool. So you have a publisher, you have a distributor, right? That's the questions you're going to get. Are you self-publishing? I would like the same questions to happen with short films. So, are you self-publishing? Are you whatever? And then you could, that's a good place for it to be. And then I think you would see a large enough movement that it'd be really cool and it'd be a lot of neat stuff for people to pick up on, but also not such a large movement that then it becomes like completely worthless because it's like, well, anyone can do that. And now it's essentially like a, $40,000 a year job,
So then transitioning to the specific project for Tycho Decay, why this idea? How did you land on it? And I mean, I know it evolved over time,
right,
from the original idea to what it is today. But kind of walk me through that. Like where did that begin originally, and then what led to you changing and pivoting on it?
So let's do that and then we'll wrap up because I want to keep this one kind of short. So, originally, like I said, the first goal of this is just to get more clients, right? Just to prove we can make this sort of a thing. And so it was like, well, with that being the goal, then what should we do about it? Like how would we go about doing that? It's like, well, if our goal is to get a video game title sequence or ad, then what we should do is make a video game trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the time, the Dead Space remake hadn't been announced. At the time, all this other stuff, and me and my friend Alan Plains, who helped me, he wrote the whole backstory for this originally and stuff like that, and has helped me develop it throughout this whole time. He and I were like, well, we both love Dead Space, and there isn't really any, at the time, there wasn't any Dead Space content out there. And so we're like, let's make a intro for Dead Space. Let's just do that. A title sequence. And it was going to be really, really simple. I actually still kind of like my original idea, which was just like, the original concept was we're looking at different things evolving into necromorphs, right? So it's like it starts out as like Darwinian type notes, right? Like on finches, and the finch's beak changes. Then the beak like gets teeth, and you're like, huh, that's weird. And then it'd be like this other thing being studied in like different X-rays of this like frog or whatever, and the frog eventually is like turned into a spiky bad thing, and then so on and so forth, and then finally you see like a digital display as we're in the modern era, and it grows into like a human necromorph more or less, and then you see like the actual human necromorph just like breathing, it like turns to the screen, there's a jump scare or whatever, and it's like Dead Space. That was sort of the original idea. It's like, what if Dead Space had a new game or a TV show? How would we do the title sequence? And then from there, we kept asking questions, and you ask enough questions, and there's a very good video that I put a lot of work into that I highly recommend, about how to come up with good ideas for short films, how to just come up with good ideas. That's a good video that everyone should watch. But you keep asking questions, and you go like, well, why are they here? And eventually we found out, oh, there's actually a story here outside of just a Dead Space fan film that we're interested in telling. And anyone I kind of showed that to or talked to about it or showed the storyboards of were like, I really like that. And I'm like, okay, we're on to something. We should make this a little bit broader than just Dead Space. And then as we kept going, it's like, well, we have our own character, and she's in no way related to Isaac Clarke or anyone else, and we have our own monster that's in no way related to any of the other monsters. Really, it's really more of its own like Alien / Resident Evil / Dead Space inspired piece. And then that got me, on the road of thinking more and more about short films and digital. I went on a walk and I literally like just recorded myself and then sent it to Alan afterwards. Where I was like, I think there's this short film market that no one's been able to break. No one's been able to tap it. And I might like be yet another ship that crashes into the iceberg of short filmmaking. But I think it's ready. Like I think it can be broken. I think it can happen. I said the same thing about Phoenix for years. I have it in writing that like 4 years ago, I was like, in 5 years, Phoenix is going to be like the top growing city in America. And people were like, that makes no sense. That's garbage. And I was like, no, I see all the signs. There's no reason why it's not. It just hasn't happened yet. And I don't know like what needs to happen. Evidently what needed to happen was a pandemic where everyone wanted to move away from wherever they were. And here happened to be a good place to move. But I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew the writing was on the wall. And the same thing with before the pandemic happened, I saw the writing on the wall there. I was like, things have been going up and to the right for way too long. The economy's been awesome, and economies don't stay awesome. So things are going to get crappy. And so, I downsized, I sold a car, I got rid of stuff, and I was like, I see the writing on the wall for this. And then what do you know? It happened, right? And now, it didn't have to be COVID, right? It could have been whatever. And there's just, the market's correct. Things need, so I'm seeing the same thing with this. It's like, okay, there's a bunch of creative people out there. There's this perfect storm. Everyone's not really super happy with what they're getting from Hollywood. And there's the tools are super duper cheap. Why the platforms are there, the streaming's there, the hosting's there. You don't have to even make DVDs anymore and factor in the cost of printing those and getting labeled. Like, so where is it? Where's this new industry that should be existing? And so that's what when I realized, well, we're making one of these. I'm one of these people that I'm predicting are going to do this. That's when it became more about the bigger picture. Was like halfway through there.
Cool. I mean, we can kind of leave it at that. That kind of makes sense as to.
I think so.
Brings us up to the present
spot. So I'm hoping this. I know I'm really like long-winded and go off on tangents, but I'm hoping this will be a good video to clarify for people why I'm doing this, what it is we're doing, and as we do these production vlogs. So
dude, you should just be thankful I was professional today.
I know. I'm very grateful. I'm grateful you didn't send it off to Nowheresville. Yeah. I appreciate the 3 viewers that we've had live. You guys have been quietly watching on not chatting, but feel free to chat in the future. And then hopefully
I'll do that. I don't care.
We can make this a regular weekly thing, and this will replace the offline production vlogs, and we'll start doing these live
reviews.
So stay tuned. Sorry, reviews, not production vlog.
Dude, I'm gonna drill this into your head.
I think it's what's his face, Yahtzee Crenshaw or whatever his name is. And he's like, a vlog sounds like something that exists in the bottom of a bog, sustaining itself off of farts.
Pretty much. I completely agree with that.
It's not wrong.
Yeah, and it sounds like so next week you're gonna be gone, so we'll probably have a video up for that.
Yeah, so we'll have something up next week, and then we have 2 interviews dropping. They're both really fun. I highly recommend watching them. One is Peter Hearn. He's worked on Buzzkill, which is a really fun horror short. And the other one is Alex Sakowski. I'm always worried about mispronouncing names like that. So many consonants. And he's a really cool short filmmaker and creative director and artist. He's worked on. I don't know if you know of this film, but there's a film called Guns Akimbo with Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah. He's got 2 guns strapped to his hand, so he was an assistant director on that, or a second unit director. And then he also there's a short film that advertises a comic book that Critical helped produce called Godslap. And that's like a cyberpunk guy who has robotic arms and slaps people to death. So it's a really cool little short as well. I highly recommend watching it as well. So yeah, those are both coming out. They're both really good in-depth interviews I'm excited for. So those will be dropping over the next couple of weeks. And then maybe I'll get another tutorial if I can figure out some technical limitations, and then we'll get some tutorials back up. So that's what really gets the views.
All right. Well, we can end it there, and yeah, then we'll talk next time.
All right.